Use my gavel here. I have never used that. Sorry.
You want to be delicate.
Yeah, okay. Gotcha. All right, thanks everyone for your patience. I appreciate it. Let me get myself organized here. And, I will make a motion to move back into public session at 4:41.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All right, and now I am going to, let's see, 4:41. And now I will make a motion to adjourn our regular meeting.
Second.
Oh, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, that is it for that one. Now we are starting our public hearing, and I will make call to order the public hearing for the purpose of going over our first follow-up on our town ordinances. The special events permit, I just want to say how happy I was to see so many people here, hear so many comments and input from businesses and individuals alike. So that was to me, a really positive discussion. We are not going to present anything for a special events permit at this time, but we're also not going to talk about it until after town meeting, if that's okay with Bob and Frank. I think we have so much on our plate right now that getting either a committee together or deciding what to do after town meeting with both businesses and taxpayers and voters alike is a really smart thing to do and coming up with something moving forward. Sound like a plan?
Yes, yeah.
All right, I will make a motion to table the special events permit until sometime in, let's say, March.
Second. The spring. Can you say in
In
general
the
in the spring?
spring, yes,
Right.
in the spring. All right, and Bob seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. All right, and on the noise ordinance, we talked about, and again, got really good input from businesses that thought they'd be impacted definitely by the timing. My personal opinion is that I don't think we need to change our noise ordinance. I think that 10 o'clock works. I think that by narrowing the time, what?
10:30.
Yeah.
10:30.
Currently 10:30.
Sorry,
It's all right.
tried to skate down.
Well,
No.
11,
Changing it to 10 o'clock would, we were doing 10 to 6 or something like that, and then we said 10:30 to 6, but I think that even changing it to those hours that changes the parameters, it shouldn't, because the ski resorts and snowmaking equipment, et cetera, are the normal course of business, but at the same time, doesn't really solve any problem that we're currently having. Do you guys have
Yeah.
thoughts on the
No.
noise ordinance changes?
That was fine.
They're good?
Yeah.
All right, so there will be no change to the noise ordinance. I will make a motion to keep as is.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Aye. Any questions on the ordinance changes, non-changes? Awesome. All right, does everyone have a copy of the budget? If not, they are in the back. We are going over line by line, which is why everyone's here, because that way you get to ask us specific questions about anything that's on the budget at this time. You don't get that luxury at town meeting, so we like to go over things. I will make a few comments. We have put in a 3% across the board increase, cost of living increased for most employees, and I say most because some have been negotiated differently for their contracts. So that is one thing for employee positions. There are also changes, and you can look at the first section where you're like, well, if it's only select salaries and it's more than 3%, what's the change? In a few of the departments, like the selectman's office and the town clerk's office, there are salaries that are different, or payments that are different, stipends for members based on the number of elections we have in the year. So last year we had 4 elections. 2 years ago we had 4 elections. This past year we only had 1. And next year, 2026, we're having 3 elections. So those numbers can fluctuate based on the number of elections in the year. So those are a few things that are kind of easy to check off the list at the beginning. Any questions so far? All right, starting with the select, oh, I thought you said something.
Well, I don't know, there was a suggestion, and I don't think I'm gonna let the cat out of the bag here, Bob. You mentioned something about keeping level funding
Mhm.
for our operating budget, Bob. Is that something that you were, that you brought up and you wanna talk about?
Well, it
So
is
I'm
something
curious.
I brought up, and we've actually had conversations around it in past years. I don't think when they were years when I served with you two, but I think that going in with a level funded budget, with the challenge being, what are your needs that would
Right.
lead you to advocate for a higher budget for your department? I just think it's a more manageable way for us to be able to justify any kind of an increase at all. It's come to my mind, my attention recently, that we used to do things that way, and that especially due to the fact that we're taking on a major bond in the not too distant future, that really represents a major commitment on the town. A commitment by the supermajority, but nonetheless, it impacts everyone's pocketbook. And so, to be able to manage this budget in a way that is as responsible as we possibly can with taxes in mind is, I think, appropriate at this point. It's probably appropriate at any time, but never more so.
Yeah. And so why don't we start right at the top?
But I want to go on your point as well. You had brought up also that we
The
should
recurring
definitely look
capital
at the warrant
reserves.
articles.
Yes, I definitely want to look at that. But
And I'm also, I can see both of your points, absolutely. There are certain things that we're committed to, like the audit, that we can't get around, and so, like Bob said, there's certain things that we have to commit to that aren't going to allow us to stick with a level funded budget, but how do we reduce some other costs to absorb some of the increases? So, yeah, again, we'll jump in line by line and see what we have, and then we are going to go over the warrant articles for the ETFs and capital reserve funds, so we can look at those. And we're also going to look at the capital reserve spread as far as what we're looking at for possible investments in capital equipment over the next 10 years. And again, this is a floating schedule, so that might give us an idea of how much we have to fund to the ETFs and capital reserve funds.
so getting back to that first item, in the idea of level funding, is it possible? Can we do it? Should we do it?
I don't think it's reasonable for all categories.
So like you're starting with the,
Which
I'm looking at the
line
first
item
one, the
you-
first one we just talked about, the selectman's office, and the
Well,
things that happen there.
the
It's
only-
only 12.90% increase.
Well, the
Or
only
four-
thing that did increase there is the positions that are paid.
Okay, well, that's it, the only increase in that is reflected by their 3%?
The only increase
3%
in
and
that
number of elections.
line
Okay.
item is for the trustees, or the supervisors of the checklist.
Yeah.
All right.
Because we've got 3 elections
Yeah.
Okay.
in the upcoming year as opposed to 1 last year. It'll go up even further
We have-
every 4 years when we have 4 elections
Right,
in
right.
town, which include the presidential primary.
Right,
But that's a standard, that is level funding for every year that we have
Right.
3 elections. So
So there you go,
Yeah.
folks, that's the first one, all right, that's the answer to that.
it just looks scary when you see 12.98%.
It does,
Um,
yeah.
So it,
Okay.
those numbers
It's
are
all right.
a little. Any questions on the first section of Selectmen's office? Okay. Town clerk's office, pretty much the same thing. We have expenses. I think we talked to Karen, and did we talk about leaving that at 17,000 instead of 18?
Yeah, we're gonna try to do that.
Okay, so thank you, I appreciate that consideration. So we're changing the expenses line from 18,000 to 17,000 to keep it level. And then the elections and registration expenses are, again, because of the programming, maintenance, and poll pads for each of the 3 elections versus 1. Does that make sense to everyone? And how does everyone like the poll pads?
Very the way we vote now.
You're a volunteer
Oh,
too,
yeah.
David, so they were good for the registration process.
For registration.
Yeah.
It is a game changer.
Yeah, good. All right, so that will stay the same for 17,000, and the other costs go up because of the 3 elections. All right, so the financial administration, which is our Julie and Betsy's office, and the audit, et cetera. So the office wages are the 3% increases. The operating expenses are staying, we dropped that $500, and that was based on what we've spent so far this year, but knowing we're going to have a little bit of an increase for some other expenses that we had. We actually looked at our whole, I'm an accountant, so I looked at all the detail that went into every one of these lines and said, what are we gonna have that's new and what can we do without? So we did drop that just $500. The town office building expenses, we dropped $2,000 from last year's budget, mostly based on what we had spent so far this year. The professional fees is the audit, that is $27,500, and we did not have that in last year's budget, so that hits really hard. And then the COAS advisors, which are the accountants that take care of our monthly book reviews and also our accounting software and conversion. And we had a one-time cost that we're paying as well for a capital asset documentation. So I think that next year it will be going down because we will only have 1 year of audits versus 2 this year that they had to do to catch up. Plus, we're not going to have the capital assets, which I think was 4,000, and the QuickBooks conversion. So we should be looking at a significant decrease in 2027. That was a lot. Any questions on that part? Yes.
Can you talk about the wage increase due to going from 35 to 40 hours a week?
Yes. Based on the amount of work that has come into the office, Betsy's kind of putting in 40 hours already. We've had a lot more administrative activities in the office around legal things and minutes, meeting minutes and things like that. So it's just a necessary, essential
In the building
need.
inspector, she's doing administrative work for the building inspector as well.
That's a tough one. I've actually thought ahead to when this town might need even a town manager and, versus a town administrator. And it's a big leap in responsibilities, but the work that these 2 gals do actually everyone in the town does is incredible. And our town is changing a lot in that our costs are increasing for time that everyone spends doing their jobs. So, Sarah?
Yes, every year I go back to the year 2018 in our town warrant or town report, in which I think it's very transparent. It says 2019 budget wages, and it gives the person's position, it gives their budgeted wage and overtime, winter stipend, statutory benefits, and the total wages. I think that's very transparent, and I don't understand why we've gone back to just putting salaried or whatever, not giving that information. And plus, I think it's important to note that I called Kaylee at New Hampshire Retirement today, and right now the employees pay 7% of what they get for a wage. They pay 7% to New Hampshire Retirement. The town pays 12.75% of their wage for their retirement for municipal workers. For police, they pay 30.95% of their wage into retirement. And for the fire chief, it's 29.15% of their wage into retirement. And I just feel that some of these things could be put into our town warrant or town report so that we actually see figures, so we know what people, rather than just, a name, the total amount. Like we did in 2018, I thought it was a very good book. It gave us, everyone that worked for our town, how much they made, what their budgeted wages were, winter stipends, statutory benefits, and then it gave the total amount of their wage. Very transparent, and I wish we could go back to it, which we haven't, because I've asked every year. And I'll speak to the insurance on the next item. Thank you.
Anything else before we go to the next line? I'm not put down here, but we reduced the training and dues and fees, and that again was based on what we had spent this year. Training involves some of the accounting and administrative training that's offered through the state, some of it through the state and some through other methods, but it keeps Julie and Betsy informed on all the different changes that go on in the state. Utilities and communication, that just is basically an increase for internet and phone lines, seems to go up every year. And then equipment we left, and that can just be like even 1 or 2 computers that we would need to replace, or any kind of equipment in the town office.
The owl.
Oh, and the
Because
owl, that's
you guys
right, the
want to
owl we're
Purchase
purchasing,
an owl.
so we can have our own, because I never remember to get the one from the library, but we can use that across all the departments too. And then on
What
the
do owls cost? Just curious.
1,000.
yeah. So, and then, is anyone thinking that that's a good idea or not a good idea for the owl? I know we've had requests from a couple of the other departments to have
Can we
one.
just borrow the libraries?
We do.
I don't know.
What was that?
Is there an
The
issue?
owl,
Issue with
no,
borrowing the
we just thought
library?
convenience.
The other boards were asking for it.
We could definitely put that off.
Does anybody want to donate an owl to the town?
I don't know how often Whitney's one is used, because I think originally it was there for, not Whitney activities, more like meetings, and I
Yeah.
don't know how much it's really been used. So I'm happy to check, and if it is, it could be used here. I mean,
Okay.
so I can check.
You know, let's,
I think the idea was just having one here and not having to get it for each meeting.
okay.
Right, and I think it could be, if it would, I'd say it could be here, yeah,
Yeah.
and if it's not being used, so.
Okay. I'll tell you what, I am definitely willing to take the $1,000 out of the budget and talk about it for the next year. If there are needs and that it becomes a real inconvenience to get it from the library, or we don't have that access to it, then we can throw it in next year's budget, or possibly fundraise something, I don't know.
I'll call you before every meeting and remind you to bring the owl, and if that's,
That
you
would be
need a
lovely,
reminder.
Frank. How about you get it every meeting?
Is that the utilities?
That's the
communication?
equipment line item,
Okay,
so we reduced that to 1,000.
yeah.
Julie, you gonna put that on? That also means that you can't call Julie and ask her to reserve the owl, or Betsy. I do that, so I can't do that. I say these things lightly, but I take them seriously. I think if the library weren't right next to us, we need to be more diligent. This is the year of saving money. We need to be more diligent about the responsibility of what's available to us already without having to spend more money. So, and then the town report printing, 4,500. Any questions about the financial administration area? All right. Assessing has not gone up in years, and that remains a flat level budget. Any questions on that? All right, legal fees, we're leaving level as well. Personnel administration, that, oh,
I'm sorry.
go ahead.
I just look at the legal, but we only spent 36,000.
Yeah,
We are anticipating a big legal year. I
I'm
mean,
hoping
well,
not,
no.
but I don't feel comfortable reducing it.
Okay.
Any thoughts on, from you?
It's hard to foresee things like that,
Yeah.
and it's, and I can't think of too many terms I've ever served where there haven't been major things no one could foresee cropping up. So It's nice to not use it. There have been
Yeah.
years we haven't used much at all, but even with the use this year, we still came in under budget. And to flat fund that, I think is responsible.
I also want to read the.
I hear you though.
Yeah,
Yeah,
But
just
the-
trying,
read
I
the-
just wanna make
but
sure
read
you
the
understand
notes.
we're trying.
read the
We're looking
notes
at
too
this.
though, because we're gonna have to hire bond counsel for the fire station bond. So, yeah, I feel like that's like Bob said, I love being under on the budget. I just don't wanna be caught.
Well, if we don't pay, it goes back into the,
Yes, the
fund
general
balance.
fund.
So that's good.
Personnel administration, so this is the health insurance, the New Hampshire retirement, and the FICA, or Social Security and Medicare, which is 7.65% of the wages that are subject to Social Security and Medicare. So looking at the health insurance first, that is our contracted amount for this year. We're on a calendar year now for our insurance. So we will go out to bid like we do every year for, just for those purposes. Not saying we'll change, but if it makes sense to change and we can reduce our costs for a comparable policy, we will do that. Sarah?
Yeah, the insurance. In June, the insurance changed from the interlocal trust
Yeah.
to school care.
Yeah.
What was the percentage of the rate of increase for that move from June until?
Do you remember that number? I don't remember it offhand.
I don't remember the
I
number.
can get back to you on that, and that was a tough one because that was like you know how that happened.
33,000 had to come out of the budget somewhere. I believe was on the correct number. It was 33,000 that came out between June and December to cover the insurance. Am I correct?
I don't know, and I'm gonna get back to you on that because I want the exact numbers, because not only did we have an increase in the premiums, we also had to pay run-out claims that came through afterwards for interlocal trust, and that might have been closer to the
That was
33,000.
That was 18,000 we had to pay out.
Yeah,
For
oh,
assessments.
right.
And then we just got a refund, an $8,000 refund from that health insurance.
So that's been a really tough number to project, but I do want to know those numbers as well. So I'll put those together for our next meeting, what the increase was from interlocal trust to school care to CGI, because I think it's important to know those steps.
Right, because it was in my opinion, it was a major increase from June to December, which obviously the town had to pick up. So from then, from December, what was the increase this time to go to the CGI? I mean,
Yeah, it wasn't just 26,890, because that's the difference between last year's budget and this year's budget. So I will find out those numbers and the steps of increase plus the number that we paid for the claims costs, and have that to you before the next meeting.
thank you.
And then, again, this is for this calendar year. We used to be on a July to June benefit year. And no, we were on a calendar year then for school care, because it happened mid-year. We had to be on a 6-month term, and then school care said, we're not doing this anymore, so now we're back on a calendar year for benefit plans.
Can I just ask Julie, coverage, is it the same, close, what?
No,
No.
not at all.
In
It's not
what?
as good as it used to be. We pay
Especially in
We
prescription.
pay a co-insurance now, the prescription meds are much higher, and co-insurance on the prescription meds. You have to go pretty much out of town for blood work, any kind of labs,
Is that the site of service?
yeah.
If you want to get paid for or if you want to
Not
get the
pay.
best benefit
Yeah.
and not have to pay a copay, you would have to go to Androscoggin or Littleton. I
Yeah,
believe.
Littleton.
Those are
Littleton,
site of
Maine.
service benefits, but if you
Yeah.
want to stay at Memorial, for example, you
Yeah.
would pay a copay.
I see.
You pay a co-insurance,
Co-insurance.
yeah, on top of your copay.
Sarah?
Yes, I'd like to point out as far as insurance, a few years back, it was 3% that the town employees paid. Now it's 5%. And I've been around town asking locals who live here and so on. And in the private sector, people feel very fortunate if their employee pays half of what their insurance costs are. And in the school system, it's 20% that the teachers have to pay. And it's not about personalities, it's about dollars and cents to the taxpayers. And I'm just wondering if it's not coming to a time when maybe we have to consider with the retirement percentages that we're giving, for every time you increase a wage, you increase your retirement percentages. As we just were told, we're paying more money for less service for the insurances. But again, as a taxpayer, I'm just saying to you that a person's wage doesn't always go up 3% a year as our employees have, or 8% like it has in the past, to bring them up to what other towns or other people are getting. And I know we feel we have quality help. But again, as a taxpayer, I have to say, New Hampshire Retirement back in 2009 stopped all monies to be presented to retirees for insurance benefits. As we all know, we just saw in the SAU 9, $3 million for retirees for benefits for insurance. I understand paying a fair wage and giving people a good wage. But again, with these tremendous costs of insurances, as a taxpayer, I'm just saying, we've got to figure out a way to be decent to our employees, but also to the taxpayer itself. Thank you.
Thank you. Eric?
Barb, I would say that in my experience, the private sector is actually going the other way and starting to pick up more and more of insurance. I think the best thing that you can do is take care of your people. And I would highly encourage the town to continue to take care of the great people that are here. And at my company, for example, we cover 100% healthcare, no questions asked, including dependents. And Black Mountain's headed that way as well. So I would say that in general, the tide is shifting, and I would put almost more importance on healthcare than wages.
Thank you. Any other comments? It's a really tough one. It's the biggest impact for any company or municipality or school district or whatever. And the fact that the premiums have gone up and the out-of-pockets have gone up, you're really slamming the employees both ways if you give them more responsibility of paying their own. I don't know where it's going to go either, because it's just been, we saw a lot of years where it wasn't increasing a lot in the premium side, and lately that has not happened at all. Like Julie said, the more you have to travel, the more inconvenienced you are. That means that we're taking more time off to go to the doctor because it's farther away, etc. What I'd love to see also is more health incentives, to stay healthy and take care of, or using some of the resources that are available through health insurance to reduce the risks of becoming unhealthy. So, if that can help, if you participate in certain programs, your premiums can go down or whatever. So I think it's just a really, really tough conversation to have every single year, because like I said, it is one of the largest line items on any budget. So, thoughts, questions, comments?
I guess I'm going to echo what Eric said and others that I've talked to, and what I've always said is the people who work for our town, they're our biggest asset in the way they work. And I just think that if we're going to find, and we need to make cuts in places, we'll do it, but not when it comes to the employees or their health care, or asking for any more contribution. They do a lot of work, and I think they deserve every penny. And so you want to find cuts, find it somewhere else. That's my opinion.
Bob?
I have nothing to add.
Okay. Any other public comments? Ken?
Yeah, I would just point out, when you look at it, be careful not to fall into the trap of just looking at the percent that's being paid for health care. Because in many cases, it's better for the worker to have the health care covered as opposed to a major wage increase, because the major wage increase to make up the difference is taxable.
Right.
Whereas the benefit coming from the health care is not taxable to the employee. So the employee can actually come out ahead and still cost the town less.
Thank you. Did that make sense? Okay. Peter?
And I would just point out that there is a pretty big number of volunteer employees in the town that don't get anything in terms of retirement, in terms of benefits. So bear that in mind as well when you're thinking about that, maybe that 3%. It's, we couldn't come close to paying for our health insurance with what we make for town wages.
Anything else? All right. Planning and zoning boards. Planning board, 5,000 up from 1,500. Bill or David? Bill?
Very simple, we were hoping to do a master plan for 2026, and we'll have expenses associated with it. In addition to our fairly flat amount that we have for recording fees and the like, which has been constant over the last several years.
Is this an estimate, or do you have like costs that you're anticipating? Just curious.
We
Yes or no?
anticipate that we'll have some expenses, we're not sure exactly, but we'll have mailings, we'll have surveys, we'll have printing, all of which
All those.
will have some costs associated with it. It's an estimate, and if we don't spend it all, we'll give it back.
I remember back at the beginning when I jumped on the select board, there was some rewrites that North Country Council was helping, and they were able to help fund that. So maybe that's, I'm just throwing that out there. I'm sure if you guys
We're not
know of
asking
any
for the
of
$100,000,
I'm just-
which Conway used for their master plan last year. And we're going to do it entirely by volunteer.
Okay. Questions?
I
Comments?
could be wrong, but wasn't there also a look back to the last time we did a master plan and recognized the expenses that it took?
Yeah,
back
10
then?
years ago is a long time. The
Right.
expenses don't really,
But the-
we talked about the activities as
Right.
opposed to the expenses.
Right.
The costs have pretty much tripled since then.
If we didn't do it this year, what will happen that will be negative? Could we wait a year? Could we go put it out further for the cause of saving, once again? Pennies add up, as someone used to say to me all the time.
Yeah, nothing
I'm
will
just
fall,
kidding. I'm
nothing
just-
will fall apart, but the problem with that is that you end up having activity creep, which is, if you don't do it this year, well, what's gonna keep you from doing it next year and the year after that and the year after that, as we have in the past, and former select board members have in the past extended that out 16 years because of exactly what you described, and I think you were a select board member at that time and used the same argument.
Well, it ended in 2003, from 88 to 2003. I don't think it
No,
happened then.
no, I'm talking about your earlier time.
From 88 to
Yes,
2003?
yes,
It's probably on the record, I suppose.
Those were the times when we
Again,
All right.
I just-
Stop.
Anyway.
No, I appreciate it, but I just want to get it out there. I'm not advocating, I just want people to say, we're trying. Is that a place? You just explained it. Does that work?
When was the last master plan done?
In 2016.
It definitely was, for some reason I thought it was longer.
You're due for,
Than
you're
that.
due for a master.
And aren't you
10
required to do
years.
one every 10 years?
Yeah.
It's a 10-year master.
I think my point is that the activities that are gonna be necessary to put together this master plan are the same activities that we had to go through 10 years ago. So I
Mhm.
should have not said expenses, but activities.
Activities.
And so, yeah, everything costs more than it did 10 years ago. So it's a fairly level funded master plan for a master plan year.
Mhm.
If you don't want this to be a master plan year, then that's a conversation and a vote we can have. But this is not an exorbitant amount of funding for a master plan year.
Mhm. Thanks for throwing it out there,
Yeah,
both of
just-
you. All right.
What do you?
Zoning board, is anybody here on that one? That's creeped up $500, and I'm not sure if there's anyone that knows
I think
why.
that's a typo.
Should be 1,000?
It should be 1,000.
Does it need to be 1,000? If it was 500, 425 last year? You know what, maybe just look into that for next time if you don't mind, or I could nudge me and I will.
Yeah.
Okay, so that should be 1,000, could be less.
Could be 500.
Yeah, that's fine. We can look at that and see if we can reduce that to 500 for what they spent last year, but we'll let the zoning board get back to us on that one. Salt frame. Okay. Housing Commission, is anyone here to talk about that? And if not, I will. There's, Emily, help me if I'm.
Yeah, I was just thinking.
Yeah, 1,500 is in the budget this year. There was nothing last year. We have been doing a lot of work on the property that has been donated for the purpose of building housing. So we are considering a lot of different expenses this year for, we're trying to get everything donated as much as we can for services, but we're anticipating a small amount of costs at $1,500. I don't know if there's anything specific at this point, just wanting to.
I think it was just, yeah, sort of having that placeholder, some funding. I think you described it.
Okay, Ken? Oh, sorry, Jerry?
What do they spend money on?
We haven't spent any money out of this last year because we had money in the Housing Commission from the previous funding. So there was some printing done for a public awareness meeting.
Yeah, we had the meeting back in June, I believe it was, where folks, yeah, there's printing of brochures and there was, yeah, flyers for that.
Did they go to any trainings or,
No, most of it is like,
Municipal.
so far they've used the New Hampshire Municipal, and AHEAD is a nonprofit that's working with affordable housing in the state. So, you know, everything has been donated so far, pretty much as far as time goes. It's just establishing something in there for kind of earmarking it for future expenses. We, like I said, 5 acres, a little more than 5 acres has been donated for the purpose of this, and we're looking to really move forward in 2026 to get the project moving in a lot faster pace.
But again, in close partnership with AHEAD and the new housing trust that they have created, sort of separate group, but there could be some fees in working with them in trying to move the project forward. Sorry, I can't be more specific,
Yeah.
but I can let you know.
There's actually a meeting tonight?
Yeah, I'm just
Yeah.
like, are we at 6?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, all right. Any other questions on that? All right. So you guys okay with leaving that
Yep.
there? Okay.
7.
it's 6 at the old library.
Yeah, 6 o'clock at the old library, yeah. Okay, general government parks and buildings. There is an increase for the old library, and that's, I think, based on the fact that they want to get the keys redone, et cetera, right? So they boosted that up just from what was spent this past year, from 7,500 to 8,000. The Town Hall Historical Society doesn't have anything in that line item, and nor did it last year, but they did have expenses, and they haven't submitted anything for this coming year. And then the town grounds and maintenance, we did leave that, and we increased the town electrical expenses mostly for the new fire station. We're just not sure what the costs are going to be. We're going to have 6 months of the new fire station since it's June 6th. You know, basically we're gonna have at least 6 months, more like 7 months, but we're also going to be using the old fire station until we're entirely moved out. Jay has already recommended that we just cut off don't use the old fire station as soon as we're moved over. So this is sort of an unknown, but we don't want to be caught short with the cost of the new fire station. So I don't know if we're smart in boosting it by 10,000 and leaving the 5,500 that we didn't spend this year. So thoughts, questions on that?
Yeah, let's cut it. Let's cut some of it. A little bit. again, that's what we're trying to do. That's the kind of complaint we got, the sticker shock from our tax bills. I think, in it, we're all in this together, town, county, school, wherever whatever the increases were from, but our valuations, I think it took everybody by surprise as to where we went and what ultimately happened. So, again, on these, if you can cut 500 or 1,000, those things start adding up. And maybe this is a place we can. And I'm just suggesting it, because I want that out for discussion.
On the town grounds and maintenance expenses, we left that equal, but it's only 1,900 that was spent this past year. Do you remember, Julie, if there was anything in that 5,500 that we thought we'd be spending this coming year compared to last year?
Jim, do you think there's anything?
On the town grounds?
Yeah.
Your side, I'm not really sure. I remember the porta potties keep going up.
Porta potties, the porta potties are in there.
I wonder if we can bring that line item down, though.
I think so.
Jay,
I think so.
thoughts?
Question for Julie. Town electrical expenses, is that all town and buildings?
Yes,
Okay, so the electricity's not in my budget for the building?
correct.
Correct. Yeah, that's why we bumped that up to 40, just not knowing size of building, new building, and then having both buildings for a short period of time. But going back to the grounds and maintenance, I mean, I'm okay with shutting that down a little bit to maybe 2,500 and still leaving it a little higher.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yep.
And if we come up with any reason not to decrease it to that, then we will discuss it at the next meeting, but I think that's a viable decrease. Questions on that section? Right. Page 2. Cemetery submitted a flat budget, and I think being close enough to where they were last year, that's logical. Insurance is the property and liability, and is that an actual number based on theirs? Julie, that's right.
Yeah,
That's
that's
exact
their
right.
number, yes.
Okay. And it went down. When does that happen? Building inspection wages at 3%. And then we had one line item for septic design reviews, and we broke it out into 2 this year for miscellaneous engineering expenses, and left the septic design review on its own line item because we can easily identify that. And then the miscellaneous engineering is that guy named Burr Phillips, who was sitting up front here before. So his rates have gone up, and we're anticipating more engineering in 2026. So we didn't change the amount for the septic reviews. That's coming in right around the $2,500 that we spent this past year. And then we increased Burr's from $12,910 up to $17,000 for the year. Burr, are you still here?
No.
Okay. Bill?
How much of this expense is offset by revenues? I mean, it's just, obviously we have inspection fees and other things, and you have to record this as an expense. I appreciate that.
Yeah, yep.
But isn't a big part of this also offset by charges that we have?
Just the septic design
Just,
review
yeah,
is
so
offset by
the
revenue.
2,700.
Okay, so we don't receive any monies for building inspections?
Not for miscellaneous engineering, no, we pay.
No, I
Oh,
mean,
I'm sorry,
we
for
have
the building
inspector
inspection?
wages in this
Yes.
listing, I'm asking.
Yes, that we do.
Yeah.
And it's, Kevin, you want to?
Yeah, I think it was like $6 million or something
In
Well,
building?
I think it was,
Total
I wanna
permits?
say it was 57,000 that came in for fees.
Yeah.
so like 0.5% of that was
Yeah.
taken in.
Yep. So for Kevin's wages,
Yeah, I mean, this shouldn't be just looked at as an expense item, I guess. is the
Right.
point.
Kevin's wages almost fully get covered by the revenue that's brought in from the building
Yeah,
permits.
the revenue isn't in here, it will be in
It's
the
in-
town report.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I thank you for bringing that up, because
Yeah.
that is an important part. Yes?
Barbara, you said that you expect more project engineering in 2026. Can you just highlight what that's going to be?
I was wondering if that was Kevin?
Maybe
Yeah.
I can highlight that.
Yeah.
I guess the first question is the $12,000 of engineering expenses. I was wondering if some of that could possibly be billed to the homeowner for some of these jobs that are, yeah, extremely difficult, and then the town's gotta get involved, and then we have to start looking at their engineering, and BERS has to look at that and go over that. And then I think we got a couple projects coming up that are gonna be, you know, they're lots that were just sold.
Mm.
You know, one's got a 3-foot culvert going across the road, the water just dumps out onto the lot. That property's getting engineered right now, but BERS gonna have to oversee that. So same thing, I think that bill, when he looks at that, looks at that plan, he should bill the homeowner. Plus, there's gonna be probably a $1 million home plus going
Yeah.
on that lot, so
Love that idea.
something to look at.
Agreed. Then what I'd like to say, and see if you guys think of that, I'd like to leave the 17,000 until we have a conversation with Burr and revisit that at the second budget hearing, and then find out if there are any reasons why we would not bill a homeowner for that, and maybe come up with some town procedures to build that in. Does that sound okay?
That sounds good. yeah.
Sarah?
I just have a question. You said it was an increase because of the wage. Is he getting a 3% overall?
No, that Kevin would be the wage increase, Kevin for the building inspector.
But you said
And,
miscellaneous.
Burr's rate went, his hourly rate went up, and we pay him as a contractor.
And so what is his hourly rate?
$92 an hour.
It went up to $94 an hour.
Eric?
I guess a lot of this talk about the revenue centers, is there documentation on, I know we get the tax revenue obviously, but you know, we've got firework permit fees, we've got special event fees, we have all these other fees, right? Like, a lot of these expenses are attached to revenue, and it would be super helpful to
It's
see
in there.
that.
Yep, it's not in this packet that you have, but it is documented.
Well, we do have a
In the
revenue.
It's in the town report.
Yeah.
It's in the
So
town
you-
report.
yeah.
It's just not attached to today's, but
Yeah.
it will be actually in the next budget hearing when we have that handout too. But yeah, look up one of the town reports and
Yeah, 'cause I
for
mean,
last
the
year.
town's growing, right? So these revenue centers have to be growing as well.
Well, there's a revenue sheet right up to the warrant articles.
Is there?
In the spreadsheet, not on this, not in here.
No, we didn't include that today.
No, just the warrant articles.
Oh, I'm sorry, you are looking at, on the back page of the warrant articles is the revenue that is collected.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Sorry.
my bad too. So,
Sorry.
yeah, I know, licenses, permits, and fees, you can see the building permits there. What we collected last year was $58,265. And then, building licenses and permits, other licenses, permits, and fees. So it's generally in there, but,
Well, my question, when we were talking with Kevin, is it looks like we're projecting over like a 10 to 15% decrease in revenue from building permits in 2026 than we budgeted for in 2025. And I'm wondering, did that come from you? Are you anticipating less revenue from building permits next year?
It's an unknown, it didn't come from me.
Well, it is, but we do budget an amount.
It's an estimated amount, and
Right.
then we work with Department of Revenue, and they revise our revenue amounts. So.
we don't have a lot of control over
We,
that
we,
then, or?
we do, but we just have to give an estimate for the proposed budget, because we really don't know what's coming in. Like,
Right.
the police department got $20,000 in grant funds, we didn't know that was coming in, so.
Correct.
Gotcha.
But
In
we
April-
estimated 57,000 last year for building permits, and we
Yeah.
actually brought in 58.2.
Yeah,
And this year, we're estimating 50. So my question was, are we anticipating less revenue for building permits next year? And if so, why?
yeah, we're not,
We're not there yet?
it's the way that the Department of Revenue wants you to do it.
Okay.
So we don't want
It's just-
to
yeah.
overestimate our revenue. So
Gotcha.
we kind of go with what we did the prior year and what actually came in. We just, if things slow down and we're saying like $57,000 is coming in and we only get 67,000,
Yeah.
that's not a
I
good.
think it's reasonable to look at that line item
Yeah.
between now and next meeting.
Okay. All right, so, let's hit back to the building inspector. All right, so, building inspection section. All right, so wages is 3%, FERS rate went up, but we're gonna look into that and figure out why it's up at 17,000 compared to what we spent last year. And then we will also talk to him about possibility of rebilling the owners, property owners. Property owners.
There are some instances where we do send them a bill and Burr will tell us, but a
Okay.
lot of the times Kevin is using Burr for
Yeah.
site disturbance issues. There's
Yeah.
been a lot of those and it happens more and more. It just
Yeah.
seems, there's more building is happening on these
Yeah.
side,
Just
not
worth
side
it.
of mountains.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
a lot more going on.
Yeah. All right, so it's worth asking the question, make sure that we're not losing sight of anything on that, and making sure that Bill Burr lets us know too. All right, and Kevin, of course. Did you have anything else?
Yes, vehicle fuel and maintenance. We spent 2,100, we budgeted 4,500 last year, and we're doing 4,500 this year. I'm assuming, I think I can assume that fuel price is gonna be going down here for a little while, but we didn't spend as much as we needed, so I'm saying bring that down to 2,500, we can save a couple of $1,000.
Which line are they using?
Vehicle fuel
Vehicle
and maintenance
fuel
on
and
the building
maintenance under
inspection.
building inspection.
Yeah, a lot of the minor, maintenance things I've done myself, so big savings there, but, I mean, anything I think could go in for, $2,000 bill, put it that way, so, it's an unknown,
Well,
I don't know what to say.
You mean for your town vehicle?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I'm not asking to cut it all, but we only spent 2,133 at 4,500, and you're asking for 4,500, and again, in the, trying to do what we're doing here, I think that 2,500 would be a reasonable number.
How about
I mean,
three, how about
Or
3,000?
three, just to make an effort to cut some of this and get to where we're going.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right.
Like I said, probably needs a brake job coming up soon.
that's the old cruiser, right?
Yeah.
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 And it's
Year-old. The cost of everything has gone through the roof.
I know, it needs batteries up left and right. And those are
Oh, really?
$400 a shot.
Yeah.
So they're good for about a year. Yeah, I don't know.
Good for a
exactly.
year, that's good, that's
I don't-
extra.
I
It ran when I gave
That's
it.
good.
Yeah, I know.
So,
I don't know.
so,
I don't know what that.
so,
All right.
you do
Okay.
that?
And then building
What-
inspection.
What happened? Did we-
Wait, I was just going up one line too. So the building inspector expenses, we're keeping that at 5,000. All right, if between the two of those, we have budgeted 9,500, we spent 6,000. Can we just cut each one 500 and just try to eke out a little bit more? And if you need more than one battery or a new vehicle, we'll talk about it. So 45, are you okay with,
I'm
we're gonna
okay.
nickel
I'm
and
okay
dime
with
you
it.
on this
Yeah.
one. 4,500 on building inspector
Three?
instead of 5,000, and 3,500, 4,000 on building fuel and maintenance. So we're reducing that 500 for a total of $1,000 reduction.
In vehicle fuel and maintenance.
That's what we're
That's
bringing
you
down
said,
to,
we're bringing
we're
it
bringing that
three.
down to
Oh, to
4,000.
4.
Yeah, don't forget the maintenance side. Gas is not the
Okay,
big one.
okay,
Kevin's,
all right. It needs batteries and,
well, the vehicle's pretty old, so. If you can start seeing through the floorboard,
Not
just
yet.
let us know. All right. Any other questions on that section? You can it down. All right, police department. This is a different one, and I'm gonna skip over wages for a second because I just want to talk about some of the other items that are on here, and then we'll talk about the status of the department. So vehicle parts and repairs, we spent 10, we budgeted 10, and we're putting in 13,000. And the reason for that, Mike, since you worked on the budget, I'm addressing you directly.
I appreciate that. Yeah, so our oldest cruiser is coming up on 5 years old. They normally only make 6-year time frames. Mileage is getting high on it. This last year, we had coils and spark plug wires start to go on it to the tune of $450 a piece. And we had to do 2 last year, so there's 6 more to go. Hopefully not, but once one goes with these kind of things, it normally does. The tires, we got a new set last year, but it seems like every year we're having to replace tires because we don't wanna go in the winter with a set of tires that have 2 months left of tread on them anyways. So that's kind of where that increase comes from for the vehicle parts and repairs.
Well, you don't have to inspect it anymore. Oh, remember that?
Thank God.
I think we'll still choose to, just to make
Yeah.
sure our officers
Yeah.
are safe on the road.
So, on that, I'm on board with you on that. I want to just go over a couple of things, like you went over in supplies, but we're keeping the budget the same. You went over in utilities, communications, but we're keeping the budget the same as what it was. So, you went over on a few, you went under on a few, but overall, I think you're keeping it, other than that, you're keeping your budget level. And then with a few of the other items that are going up, like the training dues and fees, we're anticipating some staff changes this year, and that's what the training and fees is. So whoever doesn't know, Chief Purley is going to be retiring this year in June. So
Good Lord willing.
I know.
Congratulations.
So this is a very different year with the police department wages and costs. We have a payout package, but we're also budgeting for a new employee. And we don't know if it's going to be someone with experience or if it's going to be someone that we put through academy like we did with Officer Eaton. We're budgeting worst case scenario at this for someone that has experience. We could very well come in under budget on the wages, but to budget for that and not have that happen could be really it could be very impactful. The other thing, easy for me to say, this budget is going to decrease significantly in 2027 because of the fact that we have Chief Purley in here, and we're going to miss you, but not your wages. So for 2000,
it sounds like.
no, but well-deserved pay. But I just want to preface this all by saying it's a really tumultuous budget for the next 2 years. It's going up and it's going down. So it's hard to look at that and go, oh my God, what the heck? We're not increasing it by a full staff member, but we're increasing it by $62,000. So there's a lot more to tell than just a line item on this budget. So any questions that you guys want to ask about this? Anything else, Bob? Okay.
Barb, I had something.
Mike, sorry, Eric?
Yeah, I mean, this may come as a surprise, but I really do, I find when I look at the overall budget, and again, I look at this more as a resident of the town now, not as, sort of Black Mountain piece, but the police is extraordinarily high for a town this size, and if you look at the increase of approximately $352,000 to the bottom of the budget, the police make up 20% of that increase. So I really like to understand. I understand that there's going to be some changeover in staff and those things, but when we look at what I like to call Safeway dollars, right? Money you can go to Safeway and buy milk and bread with, right? We have a pretty big increase in tax, whether it's from the school or something else or whatever it is. Like that's a very large increase. And I do think we need to be counting pennies and looking at things. When we're arguing about a couple $1,000s for building inspectors and those pieces, I think it's a difficult conversation, but I think one that has to be explained more than it's a transition year. The police department is significantly more expensive for a town this size than the fire department, other departments, and I'd really like to hear from the select board about maybe what that future conversation looks like and how we have it.
Thank you. One answer real quickly is that the police department has 3 full-time staff and the fire department is a volunteer organization with 1 full-time chief. So that's a huge amount of difference in the wages, and we're so fortunate to have the volunteer staff that we do for the fire department. So I know that's one designator that I can address immediately. So
Can I just say
yeah.
I'm just curious. So in part of this wage increase is there's an overlap. There's going to be a 4th guy for a while we're transitioning
Yeah.
If we hire the new, so that's where some of this money's going
Yeah,
to.
if we can get one
If-
hired, I mean, we had a position open last fall that Conway stole from us the week before we started our process. Literally a week, and I just saw today, they have another ad in the paper again today. So, yeah, so it's for February through the rest of the year, so the
Yeah.
chief's leaving in June, and we really have to start in the February timeframe, because if it is a non-certified officer, the next academy starts end of April, 1st of May. So that paperwork has to be in by, I think it's March 14th or something, like second week of March, that paperwork has to be in. And they only have 62 spots. So if you're waiting until that deadline date, your spot might not be there. Because there's usually about 75 applicants for 62 spots. So that's where that overlap officer is needed so early for,
Sure.
is for that timeframe.
And, you know, for every day we don't have that fourth officer, yes, we
Right.
have, I think it was $1,100 a week savings that we don't, not savings, but money that we're not spending
Yes.
for the overlap, so.
Rounders, yeah, so
um,
$100.
We did actually reduce it because we knew when we met in beginning of January that we didn't have anyone starting for 3 weeks, so we took
Yes,
it down
yeah,
a little
so-
bit, so.
Yeah, there's already a push.
Actually, by the time we have our next budget meeting, we may be able to reduce it more if we have to,
If
but,
I can add too, it's not a labor overlap, because if you hire an uncertified person,
yeah.
say in March, and they go to the academy in April, they're gone for 16 weeks.
Mhm.
They don't really come back to the community to work until I'm gone. So, otherwise you're gonna be, if you wait until I'm gone, you go to 2.
Mhm.
And then, you know, you really have substantial gaps in your schedule, moving forward, if you can hire a
Bob, you have a comment?
Yeah, well, and this is the conversation we've been having for over a year now. This is the plan that the chief came to us with a year ago and said, let's just be mindful of June 26th. And so, and that's why you're talking about this may be a little bit of a spike and a drop in over a 2-year period, which is understandable, and it's been planned for, and it's necessary to provide the police protection and coverage in town that our residents have come to appreciate.
All right, any other comments? Yes?
So what is the coverage with 3 officers full-time?
It's a secret, because if we tell everyone, then they'll know when we're not covered. No, I'm kidding. Chief?
I can address the nuts and bolts of that. So, with 3 officers and the schedule that we use, we can provide 16 hours of labor, 7 days a week. Now, that provision gets modified by the following things. Then these are the things that take someone out of labor pool. They're not providing the labor service. Sick time, vacation time, court time, because they can't be in court and be working at the same time. Mandatory state training, which is up to what, Mike?
It's up to 24 hours per officer for required, for one section of training, another 8 hours for another set that is capable to be done online. So you're looking at 90 hours for the 3 of us a year.
So you back out all of that time, sick, vacation, court, training, maybe some other duties that, take them out of town, like moving vehicles around, doing relays to the lab, things like that. And that's what gives you the labor. So you get 16 hours a day, 7 days a week, less those variances that, account to, the PTO policy in Jackson is mandatory use, so we figure in round terms, you lose 200 hours a year of labor from every person that works, because, if they don't use it, they lose it, so they're gonna use it. And I say that's in round terms, it's scaled, depending on how long they're gonna use it. So those are things, again, that you back out from that 2,088 hours a year that someone would work. And I say that in emergency services because we work 7 days a week, so you have to make up for that 365th day, not 364, so. But our general coverage is 16 hours a day, 7 days a week with that provision.
The other thing is the town of Randolph just eliminated their police department. Did you know that?
Have you ever been to Randolph?
I know. I know. It's kind of scary though to think about that. So they
Don't
eliminate,
blame.
so it's all covered by the state police now. Hmm? Bill?
If I can make a comment, when we first moved here, and that's 2014, 2015 budget year, the police department was then asking to increase their staff from 4 to 5. And that was under a prior administration, obviously, and that was done because we didn't have enough coverage. Even then, we were using the sheriff's department considerably. I think the current process we use, the current coverage that we use is much more efficient, it's much better managed, and to do it with 3 is quite amazing what you do and how you do it, and to suggest that you can do it with something less, I think would be unconscionable.
Thank you. Who else raised their hand? Somebody? Jerry?
Would the new hire have to go to the academy, and prior to that, are they able to be in the line of duty, or do they have to go to the academy first?
So it depends on who we hire. If they're not already a law enforcement officer in the state actively, they would have to attend the 16-week academy. And leading up to that, yes, they can ride with me, start our training, because that's about a 12-week program in itself. So they would ride with me, or probably not the chief, because he's got enough other stuff going on. But, and I don't want that. So, yeah, they would be riding with me, just like Officer did for the weeks leading up to the academy.
There's also, I'd like to point out here, that there's a state law that prohibits an uncertified police officer from working independently. They cannot be on their own. They have to be sight and sound supervised until they're certified. So you get, the days of, badge and gun and, calls if there's a problem. Those days are over. They can't work independently until they're certified.
So in a sense, that ride all the time is part of the training, really?
It's all true. It's all true.
Eric?
Last question on this one. You have, under the capital outlay, you've got $16,624 for Jackson PD equipment laptops.
So we're gonna wait till we get to that section.
Yeah, I'm just wondering where was the capitalized versus other department items? So for like fire department, we've got.
They're all under, I'm sorry, hold on a second. Are you back on the warrant articles?
No, agents to expend capital outlay fixed assets.
Yeah, we're not gonna go over that yet. That's in the warrant articles.
Okay, yeah, I think it was less about the specifics of that and just more about why it was included in capital versus some of the other departments where those things were not included in capital.
Dollar value.
Dollar value.
All right, we're gonna move along to the ambulance. If you look at what the budget was compared to what we expended, the ambulance, Bartlett Jackson Ambulance only asked for half of their appropriations, and they were able to sustain their operations through only half of the funding from Jackson and Bartlett and Hart's location. So consciously, we're budgeting the full amount that they're asking for and hoping that, they can collect all their insurance money, et cetera, but 40,000 is in there in worst case scenario. It is an unbelievable thing that we have with the police, the fire, the ambulance, all the first responders that we have. It's incredible the amount of service we have and the dedication of the people, and the ambulance service at $40,000 a year is still pretty low. We'll talk about the capital expenditures for the ambulance when we go over the warrant articles, but any questions or thoughts on that?
No.
Any questions from the public on the ambulance? Awesome. All right. Fire station, and this says new station and old fire station with the parentheses of municipal storage. So again, fire department wages is for our chief, our deputy and the volunteer firefighters that get paid, so that is 3% increases across the board there. And then gas for the old and new building, I'm gonna turn to you, Bob, and then Jay for any explanations in any of the increases and why we're keeping things the same on some of the other line items, so.
Yeah, it's cost of maintaining 2 buildings versus
Yeah.
1, but go ahead, Jay.
So on the gasoline item, I don't know if there's a miscalculation there, that usually Julie does that, but it says I only spent 3,800. I know I spent that just in diesel fuel, so I don't know if we're missing something.
Well, there's one for utilities and propane.
Yeah, the gasoline
that-
oil line
Okay,
item
just wanna make sure.
is gas and
Yeah.
motor oil for vehicles only.
Okay.
So I think we gotta look at that, Julie. There's gotta be we're missing something here.
Yeah, maybe it wasn't.
Maybe it is in a
bills
different
weren't
line item or
received
something,
yet. That's
but-
why, like, this is a working document.
Yeah,
Some of the December bills haven't been
yeah.
entered.
So the short story on the, is I'm level funded everywhere except for utilities for the new building, old building. And keep in mind, there's multiple departments that work out of those buildings. The building, so the fire budget's paying for the building inspection portion of using the building. The EMD, which is a pretty minor expense, they'll be in the new building. But everything's level funded except for the utilities and building maintenance, because it's unknown at this point where we're at. I mean, it could be $10,000 high, $5,000 high. We kind of planned it to make sure we're not under budget, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Questions?
No, okay.
Like you said, if we don't spend it, we give it back. Any questions on that? All right. Emergency management, the 3% increase, and then we have the increase due to laptop purchase. That's the 2,000 increase, Em?
Yeah, so I was talking with Julie on that, and I've done a little bit more pricing on that line,
Mhm.
and we could probably drop it to 1,500. How about that?
By 1,500 or to 1,500?
To 1,500, yeah.
Very.
Um,
From 4,000 to 1,500.
No, the two, out of that 2,000. So
I see. So drop that by, okay. Got you.
Dropping.
The emergency management health officer
then I'm thinking
expenses.
the computer is gonna be closer to 1,500.
Okay, so we'll take it to
So it'll be
$5,500.
Yeah.
So we're dropping it to an increase of $1,500. Thank you. Any other questions, thoughts,
No?
questions? All right. Highway administration, they have their own line item for wages, and then we go to their line item for all of their operations expenses. So the wages are, like I said, 3% with the exception of a few contracted increases that were planned. So then moving, and are there any questions about the wages there? So moving down to the highway department, specifically 3% increase across the board. Sand, gravel, salt, et cetera. Jim, do you want to hit any of these, or Frank, any of the specific line items that maybe you were under, that you're keeping level, or that you were over and you're not increasing, or whatever? So.
Most of the increases are just price increases. Most of, not all of my vendors have sent me letters saying there's some sort of price increase on all materials this year. Repairs, wearable items, they've all gone up, steel. The only big one that I was able to offset by a cut in another line was the 10,000 for education.
Mm-hmm.
My newest employee needs his CDL.
Right.
So we were able to actually level it by taking out of the fuel, because I believe that line item was still based on the high fuel prices from a while ago. So we were able to cut that back, as you can see, we don't use as much. That's about it. Some of the line that I didn't use, it was just, this year I didn't get to it. we ran out of time before we were able to use that line. Planning for next year is a little different. We have some other, projects that are gonna use up more gravel. I'm hoping to use less sand, the way the winter's going. I may burn through that whole line this year.
Right.
And salt has gone up, pretty significantly.
Yeah.
What percentage of salt do we use in our sand, Jim? Roughly.
Yeah, tons of sand, it's, yeah, I was gonna say, we do about 300 to 350 tons of salt versus 2,000 tons of sand, roughly. So it depends on
So is
the
it a
year.
heavy salt mix? Is it a light
No,
salt
we're
mix?
pretty average mix.
Yeah.
We're trying not to mix it only when we can or when we have to. I can't predict the future, and the weather has changed. We have a lot more ice storms now than we used to.
Yeah.
So we're using more salt
Yeah.
to combat that.
And the roads have looked good, I'm telling you.
Yeah. Can you talk about the maintenance of the town grounds going from 12,000 to 15, or you just?
That's where I was speaking to Julie, the town porta potties that we like to keep around town, that comes out of my budget. And
So what were the ones that we
extra
talked about
one,
before?
Because we left an extra one next to the old town hall this year that we usually do away with in the winter.
So the town grounds and maintenance we dropped down.
Right.
Okay.
I'm not sure what, I think that pays for, is that the ball field, the hangout?
That's what I was wondering, because didn't we have some expenses in there for the ball field dugout? Was that in your budget for last
The
year?
repairs?
Yeah,
I don't think that came out of
It was last year.
I know, that's why I'm wondering if we spent that out of the 12,000 last year, do we have to have it at 15,000 this year? Or can we keep it level? Do you wanna look into that?
I'd have to look at the full breakdown. I
Yeah,
think Julie and I looked at it. Those
okay,
expenses are pretty fixed expenses. Like, I don't do a lot of repair work. That's
Mhm.
all recurring expenses that contracts, maintenance fees, the gardens, the sanding, or
mhm.
walkway shoveling, all comes from that.
All right,
So
if you
it's
don't mind, just,
services around the buildings and around the town that I get paid for.
okay,
I mean, we pretty much spent the budget on it, and I don't believe there's any over expenditure that I got on, but I'd have to look line by line.
maybe just take a look at the maintenance of town grounds and see, cause that went up 3. I'm just curious as to why, just explain it, email, whatever, and that's fine, I can answer it next meeting.
Okay.
Jerry?
Yeah, maybe I
And then,
missed it, but, in the highway road maintenance, it's 100,000, 100,000, 100,000. It seems odd that in maintenance, the expenditure is just what was allowed. Is that because there could be a lot more done and that's all they're doing? Or if you put it 130, could they use 130?
We're gonna ask Jim.
I can use every penny you give me. I'm not saying that facetiously. We spent 100,000, far more than that. I spent $250,000 just in paving.
It's usually the big.
But it's
big
broken out.
projects.
Yeah,
Right, it's broken out, we have that line item.
State,
State funding.
the highway block grant and
Right.
then the highway money market account.
yep,
It comes from different places.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I was wondering,
Yeah.
is that enough?
Well, it's a legitimate question. We
Yeah.
used to have 160,000, I believe, in that line item, didn't we, Jay?
150 for
What's
sure.
that?
The highway road maintenance line item, back, I mean, this is maybe 5-8 years ago.
We
but-
did, yeah, there's three parts. to it.
Right,
That's
but this
all.
part used to be 160 at one point.
At one time it was when we jumped into that 10-year plan
Yeah.
initially,
right.
yes.
And
Right,
what was
then it
it
got
again?
cut down.
We had box cuts and everything
It
else.
was
Yeah.
160 at one
Yeah,
time.
and that was a pretty, I thought a pretty good plan. I'm wondering how it got cut.
Just like anything, it's cut.
And yet we're managing and doing well. I don't wanna lose any of the savings we've already made. Jim, you stand by this budget. It's only a 3% increase. It's close
What
to level
is-
funding as we're gonna get.
I learned from Eugene.
It is the expendable trust for highway road paving.
Yeah,
Oh, we're
there's a
getting there.
little, there's a
Yeah.
little bit of funding in there for the
We're getting
highway, department buildings, maintenance and repairs. There's 20,000 that we fund, or 10,000 into that each year, but,
Right.
yeah, I think also we talked about the fact that you have staff, and if you get more money, you would probably need more staff to do the projects as well. I think you
Right.
find that with the culvert maintenance, et cetera, that, you know, we've been trying to budget 50,000 a year to get the culverts done over 3 to 5 years, and trying to get to that is probably a bigger issue than having the money to do it.
Yeah, a lot of it's time.
Yeah.
There's new projects every day that get thrown our way, so we do have a fair amount on our trees.
And you have a list of the culverts that you're going to
Yes.
replace, and, you know, anybody can see, because people ask sometimes, when's this culvert?
We try to
You
plan
know.
it just so people can plan around our work, because
Excellent.
I'll have to close roads,
Thank you.
single lanes.
Bill,
Yeah, the question I have is,
Jay, hold on.
is there anywhere in this budget the ability to do repairs to the falls parking areas that are in total disrepair at this point and impossible to park unless you have a four-wheel drive vehicle? with
You
an
can get in, but you
8 or 9
can't get out, right?
Yeah.
Actually, Jim, is that your responsibility on the falls parking lot area, or is that Conservation Commission?
That's not mine.
And I don't-
It needs to be in the budget somewhere, and the Conservation Commission has no budget. So I guess I'm asking the question, is there somewhere in our budget where that's being accommodated?
I
Not
believe
in-
that parking lot is actually in the state highway.
Yeah.
The parking lot is not a state parking lot, and
All right, hold on, we're not gonna have conversations among this. That's a valid question, because it does need repair. Jay?
So in the past, just buying gravel for that parking lot did come from the highway budget. Pretty minor, it was only
Yeah.
a few loads here or there, but wasn't like a big repaving project, but it was for driveway repairs that came from the highway.
So, I love the question though, and I would love to know, like, not my job, not your job, you know, who's appointing, but, so is it let's find out whose parking lot is the responsibility of, and is it something that should be in the highway department's budget or the conservation commission's budget or whatever, and I'm not saying it should be in one or the other, but I think it's a valid question to figure out how to maintain it and whose responsibility it is and where the cost should come from. So, Frank, can you follow up on that one
Sure.
with highway department
Yep.
and just see?
Yep.
Linda?
Yeah, you mentioned earlier this evening that you were looking at improving the lighting throughout the town campus, and I was wondering if that would find its way into the budget for 2026, and if so, where?
That would be in the town parks and building maintenance and the town office building maintenance and ETF. And we're going over that in the warrant articles that come up. Yes.
The warrant articles.
Yeah. Did you have a comment?
No.
Okay. So we're still on the highway department here. I want to know if there are any other questions for Jim or that department area. Okay, so the way we're leaving it now, everything is status quo with the exception of maintenance of town grounds. Just answer and get back to me on that, and otherwise, I think we're good to move on. Okay. Solid waste disposal. This is the transfer station. Last year, it was asked why we have $10,000 year after year after year to go into the joint operating account, and that has been taken out this year. So we have a decrease actually of 2% in the full budget. The tipping fees, the hauling and rental fees definitely went up. So we know that they're doing a little bit better job of accounting for Jackson and Bartlett's different portions of that. And then the wages decreased a little bit. They are without one full-time position at this time, so I know they're just working on hiring someone. So that's what the budget is, and just to see a decrease is kind of nice. It's a little bit of fluctuation, but it's still decreasing. Do you have questions or comments on that?
I'm just amazed to see 533,000 tons
Mhm.
of garbage left in our town.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know. Yes, Jerry?
What's the town's position with respect to having a dump sticker on the vehicle?
You mean, are we changing anything for it?
No,
The process?
in order, the signage there says you need a dump sticker to dump.
Mm-hmm.
Is someone enforcing that?
Oh, yes, absolutely. We talk to, well, we meet quarterly pretty much with the town of Bartlett, and Bob Blake, the manager up there, talks about it because we actually talked about the fact that the Jackson stickers are fading, so we made an announcement at one of the select board meetings that if your sticker is faded, to go get a new one, but they do enforce it up there.
So if timeshare people use the dump without a sticker, they're rejected?
Yes, they have to have a sticker, and we've gone through a little bit of the procedures time and again for not having it in the vehicle versus bringing it in on a placard or something like that. It's a little bit tougher to manage, but they file little complaints if they have someone, and they give us like their license plate or something and try to find out as much information as possible as to where they should be dumping. So, it's a tough job up there.
And Bob has turned
It is,
people away.
that's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
If it's the personnel's their responsibility to enforce that, or if they could just take the license number and give it to Bartlett or Jackson.
They do. They generally turn it back to the town that is responsible for that patron.
So they're not put in harm's way by trying to enforce that.
We hope not.
Right. Yeah, sometimes, I mean, they go through a lot up there. A lot of people that feel entitled to be up there, so.
I mean, I was
it's a
thinking
tough
of the
one.
safety of the
Yeah.
people there.
Oh, yeah, it's tough. We actually recommended that they wear safety vests, so they're looking into that to, to make sure that people know who works there and who doesn't.
What do you think about arming them?
Ooh.
Right?
Here's the Second Amendment.
What makes you think?
Yeah.
They don't want that, yeah.
I was thinking of pepper spray.
Well, oh, yeah.
All right, any other questions about the transfer station? All right, animal control, $500, that's a flat fee that we pay to, is it the town of Conway or a shelter? That's right. And they take care of anything that we throw at them. Public welfare, we're leaving at $10,000, and Julie works very hard with a lot of folks on that, and is also sometimes having to support other towns, time-wise, not money-wise, but that's a tough line, so we're not changing that at all. The library budget, Linda has submitted that. One thing I want to comment on that is in the footnotes here is that we were just informed that the library wages that are on here are the actual wages, but the Social Security, Medicare taxes, and other costs, retirement, etc., are supposed to be under the auditors are brought this up, that those associated expenses are supposed to be labeled with the library budget versus the personnel administration line. It doesn't matter to the bottom line of the budget. They're just in the wrong place. So for the future, we may have to reallocate that to the library budget lines. So we'll keep you informed as we know more. We're finding out all kinds of things from the audit.
This is brand new because we
Yep.
have not included those things in,
Right.
under the library, but.
And the thing is too, like, I don't know if that has to be then covered by the revenue of the library, which would obviously be a significant increase to your library budget. So we're taking one step at a time to say what's required, what can we do, what do we have to do. But I just wanted to throw that out there so you know
When you
that.
say revenue of the library, the town covers.
I'm just saying, the revenue offset, we'll call it that. Because the revenue offset from the library offsets this budget, right? I mean, you don't actually, am I wrong?
Wrong.
Okay, what am I thinking of?
Town pays wages and appropriations.
For
So
some
the
reason, I
first
was
two-
thinking that there was an offset. Okay,
Well,
ignore.
I
Big
noticed that
Yeah.
we have a third line item, or subcategory called library trustee expenses.
Mhm.
Those are expenses that are not funded by the town through tax appropriations.
Okay,
those amounts come from other sources, for example, contributions from the Friends of the Library.
Okay,
The library tapping into special reserve funds and other bank accounts that they have.
okay.
And again,
My
those
mistake on
uses
that.
are all earmarked for specific purposes, none of which could be used for wages.
Okay,
So, yeah.
sorry for any confusion on
That's
that
okay,
one.
that's okay. Anyways, we applied a 3% COLA increase for wages. No changes to the number of hours that various staff and the library director put in. And as you know, we had our children's librarian retire
Yes,
mid-year in 2025. We do have a new children's librarian in place, and then Gloria Hutchings, another of our staff members, decided to retire. So other staff members stood up to take the hours that Gloria would normally have been at work at the library. So that is how we address the wages going forward for 2026.
great.
And then library appropriations are funds that we use to cover what we call our operations expenses for the library. And we have a $2,600 increase in those expenses, and probably the two largest increases within that subcategory are for our bookkeeper, who's taken on some additional responsibilities for the library. And also after many years of underpaying the woman who handles the custodial duties at the library, we decided it was time to give her, well, I don't know that I call it a market rate, because it basically amounts to $40 an hour. And I'm just comparing notes with several other people who have those types of services in their homes. We all pay $50 to $75 an hour, so we're still getting a bargain. And we don't want to lose her after many years. Also, some of the other things that get reflected in library appropriations are professional development for staff, all of the utilities and other facilities expenses. Once again, this year we are going to be tapping the trustee of trust funds account, one called the March Fund. We'll tap some of the interest to cover maintenance expenditures. We're also going to be using one of the library's accounts at TD Bank, the Smith account, towards purchase of children's books.
Great. Well, thank you for what you do, because it's quite a gem that we have, and Meg is great too. Great. Any questions?
No, it's good.
All right. Thank you very much. Okay, Conservation Commission expenses. Any questions or comments on that?
Nope.
Ken, any comments, or are we good to go?
Yes, I mean, this year, the Conservation Commission will be trying to do a natural resources inventory as part of the master plan. And once we have the hydrogeomorphologist doing the analysis on erosion at Jackson Falls, we will update the Jackson Falls management plan, which hopefully will address the parking issue as well. We'll try to do something comprehensive at that time.
Okay.
But we need to understand a little bit better about the expenses relative to trying to deal with the erosion that's happening.
Yeah.
Because right now, every year is just putting the Band-Aid on the problem.
It's amazing to see the ground with the drought this year too. Really incredible changes, so thank you for that and all that you do for the town and the garden path, etc. Other culture and recreation, right about even with what we've spent for the year, and Valley Vision, filming meetings, etc. Thank you, Hank. So no changes there. Any questions? And then Parks and Recreation, level at 6,700. I had someone call me a couple months ago to ask about the Bartlett Rec line item, and I did just a quick investigation on what that covers, and because I didn't honestly know the whole story. So the $6,700 is what we pay to the Bartlett Rec to give our kids the ability to go to bear camp and join any of the things that the Bartlett Rec Department puts on. We have some camps and some other children's events through the Whitney Center, which Greg Marcello, who just left before, does an amazing job with. But there, it's like I think they do 2 one-week camps and not a full summer camp and things. So there are a lot of benefits for the kids that from Jackson that do participate in the Bartlett Rec Department, and it is utilized by the kids. So it was good to get that education myself so I could answer the question. Will Jackson ever have its own rec department? You know, I don't think so, but maybe not in the next year or two. But if someone else who even asked a question or has a consideration wants to start more in Bartlett, go for it. So that's that line item. Any questions on that? Okay. Debt service. So last year we had our bond principal for the Valley Crossroad Bridge, and that was a huge expenditure, but we knew it was there, so that's a done deal. But we do have the for 2026 we have the bond principal and the bond interest for the New Hampshire Municipal Bond Bank, and that's for the highway garage, which is through 2031. And then we have the new fire station bond interest, which is $90,000. That is for the portion that we've paid out so far through the line, I'll call it, because it's not actually a bond, the loan. And then the interest for the tax anticipation note of $51,300, which is an increase in what we had previously budgeted. So it was an interesting position we were in this year with the Valley Crossroad Bridge. We had to pay all of the money up front to the contractors for the bridge before we could submit to the state to get reimbursed. So we had to take money out through a TAN, a tax anticipation note, for $1 million to fund us, to fund that money before our tax revenue came in.
No.
What?
Sorry. No.
Did I get it wrong again?
It's a,
Damn it.
The TAN was for the taxes.
I know,
It had
but
nothing to do with the bridge.
I thought it was because we didn't have the money because we had to pay for the bridge.
We took a loan out for the bridge, the $1.2 million loan from Mascoma Bank.
Jeez.
That was a loan.
So the changes are though, that we had to pay a lot of interest that we didn't
Yeah.
anticipate. I'm sorry,
The tax anticipation note was pretty much bridge funding.
No.
No, it wasn't.
It was,
That Mascoma Bridge loan for 1.22. See where it says bond principal?
Right.
You see our bridge?
Yep.
That was the loan for the bridge.
correct.
The $1 million TAN that we took out, which we paid back in 2026. That's not in here, it's just the interest,
Mhm.
is the $51,300.
But why did we have to borrow the $1 million?
We had, for the bridge,
No, for the TAN.
because we couldn't pay our taxes, no tax money was coming in, we had to take out a TAN.
But normally we would have had money to pay our bills before.
Yes, because we didn't,
'cause-
I mean, we all know how taxes increased this
Yeah.
year.
Right.
Um,
I think what it boils down to basically is we saw a cash flow crunch that we have never seen before.
Exactly, yes.
I
So,
think that's
so
what
the-
I meant by
the
bridge
Yeah.
loan, but it
Yeah.
really wasn't a
Yeah, no.
bridge loan.
It wasn't
That's
for
what
the
I meant,
bridge.
is that was to cover us, to
Mhm.
cover our bills.
Yes, yes.
For
This
short
tax
term.
money
yeah,
was
versus
coming
the
in.
Valley
We
Crossroad.
hadn't set the tax rate, it took a little while to set the tax rate, so we didn't have any tax money coming in.
So we, again, we saw a cash flow change that we have never had in our town. It was tough. Karen?
And just as a note, traditionally, tax bills are due early December, usually around the 6th or the 12th maybe. And this year, because it was due on the 30th, and it was just because of tax rate issues, we would have had the funding earlier, and that's why we've never had to go into using other funds, because we've always been on time. But this year, because of due dates, we couldn't do anything about it.
Can I ask you how the collections have gone, and did you see like a longer period of time from when the tax bills came out to when you started seeing the revenue come in?
I want to say that the revenues came in a lot slower than traditional.
Right.
Wasn't one of the problems that the water precinct didn't post a meeting the way they were supposed to, and so we had a couple of weeks delay, so we couldn't get our tax
Yes.
bills out.
Yes.
So that basically was the
That's
beginning of the
correct.
problem.
They had to have a special meeting.
Yep.
So we were waiting for them, yeah.
Even though people weren't in those who weren't in the water precinct, we needed that
But we
before we
did.
could print
We
and
needed
send
that
it
before.
out
Couldn't set our
anybody's.
tax rate until their
Yeah, correct.
warrant was posted and they had a special meeting.
And just a note, Julie documents all this underneath, so if I would read that, I would probably get most of it for you. Jerry?
A TAN is a tax anticipation note, is that correct? Louise?
Correct.
Correct.
So it's to pay expenses that are part of the town expenses that we haven't received the revenue for.
Right,
It wouldn't be for a bridge or
Yeah.
anything like that.
Correct.
yeah,
Okay.
I got it wrong.
Yeah.
So at the bottom here, it says that our total operating budget is increasing by 11.06%. That will change based on the changes we made tonight. Eric?
Yeah, I just wanted to revisit the TAN super quick. I think that, the TAN obviously is pretty consequential. If you take the total budget increase from the selectmen's, the clerk's office, the zoning office, the building department, the ambulance, emergency management, library, and highway. So if you take the increases across all of those departments, add them together, you still don't equal the total of the TAN. So the TAN was a pretty big item, and I would love, maybe it warrants another discussion another time as to how we manage that cash flow. Because as best as I can tell, the town operating budget this year, we're looking at about a $700,000 surplus when you take out the fire station, bond proceeds and those things. And so we just, with a $700,000 surplus on an annual basis, having to cash flow $1 million, even for a matter of days or weeks, is pretty consequential. And we see that with that $50,000 TAN. So I don't know if there's other credit facilities we can look at, or there's other timing, or that we have to potentially look at how we change the expenditures we can change so that we don't end up in another scenario that's beyond our control, right? So obviously the water precinct is beyond anyone's control in this room, but that could likely happen again, and we could see TAN interests that would exceed the budget increases across a tremendous amount of departments here. So I think it's worth looking at and making sure we don't end up in the same spot again.
Can I make a comment?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, when the July bill comes out, it's based on half of the year before's rate.
Right.
So, we're not getting a whole bunch of income coming in to pay all the expenses. And
Yeah.
by the time we get down to October, November, we have huge bills coming.
Right.
We've got the county, we've got school bills. We weren't able to set the tax rate because of the water precinct. So we had no cash flow, so we had to take out $1 million TAN
Mm-hmm.
to cover those expenses. We just paid that TAN back this week.
Mm.
Because all the cash flow came in from the tax bills.
Mhm.
So that $51,000, the interest, that's what we had to
Yeah.
pay, just
I-
to take that TAN out.
Yep. Karen, go ahead and then I'll address that.
And maybe this isn't the right way of saying what I'm thinking, but if it's a department or another source that's causing the delay of setting the tax rate, which should have been addressed months prior, couldn't we defer the interest that we're incurring to those other entities?
Charge the water precinct,
Yeah,
you're
charge
saying?
the water precinct.
And I believe the school also had an issue too, because that affected the whole county.
Yeah.
So,
All those in favor?
Yeah. Sarah's not, because she's in the water district, so, or water precinct, but you know what? That was a really unusual situation, and I hope, like, for all the years that I've been paying taxes here, which is about 20, there has never been a situation, honestly, that we've had to take out a TAN, and this was extraordinary. So I think also the water precinct learned quite a bit this year, and we're sort of doing a little bit more policing on our end to make sure that we don't run into this cash flow situation. But it is interesting how a town runs, because you get income 2 times a year for the extensive bills. I mean, we get it obviously from smaller sources like motor vehicles and building permits and things like that, but the substantial money comes in July and December, so. Jerry?
Barbara's exactly correct. We have the TAN tax and history fund, we haven't had to borrow from that for many, many years, have we?
Have we ever done it?
No,
I don't think I've ever had a TAM.
No.
Can I ever think of, so it's a very unusual situation.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so-
All right,
us.
I'm
Not for
gonna,
other towns.
I'm gonna keep moving on here, but does anyone have any other questions on the general budget here, the operating budget?
One super last question on the TAN. That 51,000 in interest on $1 million for 30 days, it seems really high.
Yeah. So Eric, I'm gonna tap into your wealth and see if you wanna loan the town money if we ever need it again, but otherwise I'm gonna move on, so, yeah, all in favor? All right, we're gonna step onto the warrant articles now. So we talked about level funding the budget, and now we're gonna talk about the warrant articles. In the past, the town of Jackson has always pre-funded and saved money in our capital reserve funds. And this might be a time where we look at the fact that we may be able to drop these down this year to put a little less in the capital reserve funds. So if we have to replace something like a fire chief's vehicle, the town highway vehicle, a police cruiser, we may finance it versus taking it right out of the capital reserve fund. We have never paid, not never, we have very rarely financed vehicles or expenditures. And not everything is the right thing to finance. You don't necessarily want to finance a fire truck, or maybe you do. But I think that this is a place that we can possibly look at the balances in our capital reserve funds, what we're anticipating, and whether or not it is smart today to fund these for the next year. On that note, when you flip to the next, not past the revenue, but to the Town of Jackson variable capital improvement list, when you look at what we're looking to replace in 2026 and 27, there aren't a lot of cruisers. So I don't know if that's, the right thing that we look at. Maybe we say we have enough in our capital reserve funds to not worry about some of the smaller vehicles. Smaller, less expensive vehicles. I guess I'm rambling here, but I look at what the balances we have, there's not a total on here of what we have in our capital reserve funds, but, we've got significant amounts. Is there a way to save a little bit of money by not pre-funding these? So let's start line by line. Our fire department truck capital reserve fund, we're keeping it level at $80,000.
I'd like to see that go down to 40.
40,000?
Yeah.
Comments, Jay, anything? You guys talked about this?
It's the same comments we always have on capital reserve funds.
Yep.
Pay now, pay later.
Yep.
The only thing I'll say is we've done this in the past where, for instance, a sidewalk machine got an unplanned expense that come out of a capital reserve fund that wasn't planned for, and they said, well, we'll put it back in next year. And of course, everybody knows what happens with that, because it doesn't get replaced. It's a pay now, pay later thing.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever everybody wants, if you take it out, so what would next year's plan be?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe press it out further. This is for 2046, we just spent $1 million on a new fire engine. I think we can put it out a little bit longer and give the taxpayers a break now and see how it goes. I think I'm with Bob on this, totally.
And I think the other thing to consider is the fact that we have definitely put in some, what I think are conservative but good budget numbers for the upcoming fire station. Next year, we're gonna have a better idea for how much the operations cost for that fire station. Bill?
Yeah, all these numbers were identified as part of the capital improvement program. And the amounts were identified as part of the capital improvement program, which we used with the help of all the departments, with the help of select board, with the help of 30 or 40 residents, talking through the capital improvement program. These funds are not funds that are questionable as to how much the expenditure is going to be. I understand what you're saying is that you may want to fund them differently, or you may want to amortize the amounts differently.
Right.
But the expenditure, to, I think the point that Jay's making is you're still gonna spend
Yeah,
money.
this doesn't
So the
change.
question is whether or not you pay for it this year or next year. What our experience has been, I've only been here a little bit over a decade, but every time something gets shoved back, we end up having a balloon payment of some kind in that year that's unexpected, and oh my God, how did we ever not pay for that or fund it? And it seems like that's like saying that, okay, if we don't put $10 in the bucket for groceries, and when we go to buy groceries, we need to spend $10, we're saying, why didn't we do that? And I guess I understand what you're trying to do, but the expenses are the expenses. This is how much it costs to run a town. This is how much, everyone's talked about it. It's not, these are not funny numbers.
They're not funny numbers, but they're also not written in stone, and I know that the two towns had very different ways for a number of years when I was on the school board looking at school bus purchases, Bartlett and Jackson. And the risk you run when you stretch out by another year or two the purchase of a new bus is that you are putting way more money into maintenance to keep the old bus on the road. And so you really lose an opportunity to save money in the long run if you're stretching it out too long. Our calendar of capital improvements on the last page is a solid and realistic and responsible list. However, I think we're at a point in time where trying to eke another year out of vehicles is not unwarranted. And that's why I'm proposing that we take that $80,000 appropriation for a fire truck and cut it by $40K. And that's not the only cut I'm going to propose in our capital reserve funds.
Can I just say one thing just before the crowd gets to us here? I had suggested that possibly through our administrator, we do 25% across the board on all of these items. But Bob, with the 40,000 cutting in half for that particular item, I think is the right thing to do. And I think there are more cuts to be found here. I'm looking at the here and now, all right, and where our taxes are in some of these new expenditures. So let's just give us all a break and see it go this way instead of that way. Because that doesn't happen very often. And I've been doing this now almost 20 years. So I think it's an opportunity. We're not going to leave our fire department short or anybody else. We'll get these things done, but we can stretch it out and get this done.
Jay first and then Jerry. Jay?
So, I agree, I'm fine with some cuts. I just want to throw some facts and reality stuff out there. Back around 2008, we talked about bridge expendable capital, whatever, reserve fund. So, and nobody wanted to do it because taxes. So here we are getting hit with multi-million-dollar bridges, just as an example of if we had a capital reserve fund for bridges 15, 20 years ago, it would have helped drastically. So just keep that in mind. And like I said, you want to.
Jerry?
2 points. While I don't disagree with Bob and
Frank,
and I don't disagree with Jay, there was no way of anticipating what that bridge was going to cost, because the first quotes on it were much, much lower than what it ended up being. So no matter how much we put away for bridges over time, it wouldn't have been. And my argument for cutting the capital reserve funds on vehicles has been what it's always been for the last 15 years. When you fully fund a fire truck or something else, there's not bringing it to the town, should we buy this fire truck? Whereas if you only appropriated capital reserve fund for 50% or 60% or 70% of the fire truck or whatever vehicle, then you would come to the townspeople and say, here's what we want to buy, and we're going to put a loan for the X amount of dollars for that vehicle. In other words, you're asking the townspeople to approve the purchase of the vehicle, as opposed to every year assuming that the taxpayer is approving the purchase of a $1.5 million fire truck. They don't think about it that way. They're just putting a capital reserve away. So I think that by funding it for 70% or 50% or even 80% over time, that you're then asking the taxpayer to decide on the purchase of that vehicle. Whereas the way you do it now, the taxpayer doesn't approve it. They just go buy it.
Frank?
Oh, yeah. At this moment, we have 2 fire chiefs in this building. Fire Chief of Bartlett, Fire Chief of Jackson. Or, I think, Jim, you still the fire acting, right? And I asked you earlier this week, how many fire engines you had down there? You said it was 3?
3 engines, a ladder, tanker, forestry.
Right. And we have 3, right? So that's 6, 7 vehicles within 2 miles of us here, right? We have mutual aid. You want to go down the road another 5 or 7 miles. We got North Conway. I don't know how many fire engines we have there. How many do we need within 2, 3, 4, 5 miles to respond to a fire? Do we really need to be thinking about?
Yes.
Okay, all right, okay, hold on. I asked that question.
40%.
Yeah, so I'm gonna say that we've had some good good input on this one for $40,000. And Eric, you had your hand up for a while, so make one comment and then we're gonna move on.
Yeah, I think that we have to look at, I agree with the select board and Frank that we have to look at those costs. But if you're gonna reduce capital, contributions to capital funds by 50%, and then, raise the budget by 11%, right? Like, now you're looking at the spread there. It's a pretty dramatic thing to try to save money by reducing savings, right? So you're essentially reducing town savings and contribution from town retirement or savings or safety funds, which we saw was an issue this year because we had to borrow $1 million in the cash crunch, which, by the way, any time.
First time.
Yeah, sure, it's rare, but it happened, right? And it's real money, and it was $51,000 and it's gone, right? And so I think we have to be conscious of raising the budget and reducing savings to this degree. We're not talking about a 2% raise of the operating budget, we're talking about 11%. We're not talking about a 10% reduction in savings, we're talking about a 50% reduction in savings when it comes to the fire department. Those are dramatic numbers. Those add up to a 60% spread. And to me, that doesn't reconcile. So whether you want to, however you want to save money, and I agree the town has to save money, but let's not do it all by hacking away at savings.
Well, I'm sorry, I'm not answering as much as Bob has proposed for the fire department truck, 50%, but I don't think you're doing that for every one of these items, Bob. Is that?
Well, I'll tell you what, let's move on and see what we're proposing for these, and we can recap.
We may have to table this and go on because the supervisors of the checklist have a required meeting at 7, so.
Okay, we have 20 minutes to go over these.
If you guys
I
have.
think we can shut it down after we get through the capital reserve fund.
Yeah.
But I think we've got enough time to get through the capital
To take a
reserve
vote on that
fund.
one particular item, saying the 80 to 40, like Bob?
Let's make a that's what I'm saying. Do you want to make a motion, or
sure.
are
Yeah,
we
we have
making
one
motions on
motion at
these?
the
We're
end.
just,
That's what you want to do?
yeah, for sure.
Right.
Okay, so, road reconstruction, capital reserve fund, 125. Bob, did you have thoughts on that one?
Nope.
Okay,
Happy with it.
Frank?
No.
Highway truck,
Well,
good?
Well, yes, again, that's where I was talking about a 25% decrease. Could we do that? Is it feasible?
The
Again,
road
saving money.
reconstruction.
The
Road
road
reconstruction, yeah.
The road reconstruction, the one thing I see on that immediately is that we only have $95,000 in that fund.
Yeah.
And the road reconstruction, like Jim said, I'll spend whatever you give me.
Yeah.
I think that's one that,
I feel that the 125 is warranted on the road reconstruction fund.
highway truck,
I would propose to lower that to 62.5.
and then I'm looking at the highway, so I'm going on to the variable capital improvement list, and I'm looking at the two vehicles that are within the next, this year and next year, so that's $410,000, and then we've got another close to $300,000 in the year after that,
Yeah.
and,
It's the small truck, the 16 Dodge, and it's the Class 8 4x4.
right.
And so, it's already been said here, this doesn't necessarily have to prolong us out another year to purchase these, and these are warrant articles for specific equipment. So we can finance the rest of that if we really get to a point where we're feeling like we can't delay that. But for this year, at this point in time, with this budget, and maybe it ends up allowing us to get to a place where we find a better deal, who knows? I mean, I know that there have been times we've shopped around for things and found these things, but I think it's warranted right now to really question, should we really be taking our money right now and putting it into reserves at this amount at this particular time?
And like I said, the loans that we do have are getting less and less as far as what we have to pay back as the years go on. So
Yeah,
by
right.
putting it off, we're going to have a little bit more money anyway. So whether we bond them or not, or which I think is a pretty good idea probably.
And I don't-
But anyway, there are all kinds of things that are going to happen that are going to make our tax
The one vehicle
situation
that we
better.
have in our budget to replace this year is equal to the amount that we have in the capital reserve fund at this point.
Yeah.
So we would completely deplete it. We
Correct.
have a Class 8 vehicle to replace that's a 2010, so it's going to be 17 years old next year and $250,000. I just feel like if we could, I would be happy keeping it on the level fund of $100,000 versus dropping it to 62.5. I think that's a really huge
You
drop.
mean the highway heavy equipment?
Yeah, the highway truck capital reserve fund that you said bring from 125 to 62.5.
I have a question about
Yes,
the
sorry,
earnings
go ahead.
on the capital reserve fund balances.
Say that,
What are the earnings on the fund balances? I would imagine, since we've got an investment advisor who handles those funds, that you're getting
Yeah.
more than the typical savings account.
I don't know that answer,
The
but
trustees of the trust fund.
yeah, let me look into that, Linda, and see what the returns are on that.
So that would argue in favor of continuing to put the money aside and earning as much as you possibly could, rather than deferring and
And paying
possibly
interest.
borrowing
Yeah.
money and having interest charges.
Okay, so we have to reconcile something. You want to just go to 100,000. Bob said 62.5.
Yeah.
So.
The 100 would be level, the 62.5 would be cutting what we've been putting in. And we will be pretty much depleting the full amount in the capital reserve fund if we cut it. If we purchase the vehicle that's scheduled for 2026.
So when do we have to make the decision to
Can we-
decide 62 or 100,000 for that particular item? I mean, because you
Well,
said one thing, Bob said another.
basically, it's gonna go
And the
to
swing
town
vote.
meeting, but
Yeah.
it's
No,
is
but
what
I'm
we put
trying to
in
open
here.
up.
Let's keep going. I'm gonna say that let's keep going and see where we are in some of the other line items real quickly. The ambulance is due in March, and I'm pretty sure that's exactly what we're going to owe on it, the
Yeah.
180 plus the 500, the 50. So I'm all for keeping that equal. Karen?
Just a quick one, they're gonna do what they can out there, that we need to go to the file cabinet, but they can
Okay.
stop their stuff at 7,
Okay.
as long as you're okay, then you can
Yep,
continue.
yep.
Yeah.
Thank you. Highway heavy equipment, 100 staying level.
I would propose to reduce that to 50.
Jim, what's included in the highway heavy equipment that's on the capital improvement list?
That would cover my backhoe, grader, John Deere mower, that's what those fall.
Backhoe,
The excavator, the chipper. So
excavator.
you're looking at,
Grader.
2028 before you have to tap into that. Before I do my next equipment purchase would be 2028.
And we have 165 in there. So I'll take that. And you're saying, Bob, 50?
Yeah,
Can we do 70? Can we compromise on these and bring them down by 25% versus 50%?
I could do that. I would do that. So it came in with that. Not all of it, but, you know, as we're moving along.
No, yes?
Well, we gotta, the only way we're gonna resolve it is that, just say, let's take a quick vote here. What do you say? Bob said one thing, you said another, I said another. Make a motion and we'll figure it out. See how it happens.
Can I make that recommendation?
yeah.
Would you please leave the highway truck the same and cut from the equipment, because I can stretch the equipment. I can't stretch the trucks any longer. The two I have to replace are at the end of their life.
So if we have the 125 and cut the other to 50,
Yep. I can work with that.
I'm good with that.
all right? We're good with that?
I'm good with that.
125 in the highway truck capital reserve, 50 to the highway heavy equipment, and that's gonna totally change Bill Terry's capital reserve.
I thought Mark, what
I'm
we
just
owed on
kidding.
the
I'm
ambulance
just
was 180.
Yeah.
It is,
What?
what we owe in the ambulance is 180.
Yeah. I was gonna propose to eliminate the 50
I
on
thought
the
we-
ambulance.
I thought we did have to fund one more year.
I saw the price is 180 for Jackson's.
Oh,
Did you?
so we can put 0?
360 total.
Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah.
0.
Last year was the final
For some
payment
reason
for
I
us.
thought we
We
had
got
2
ahead,
years.
Bartlett was behind us.
No, I
We
knew
got
they
ahead.
were, but- all right, so that's 0. Thank you for that. Police
Yeah.
cruiser,
Don't need it.
I know we're gonna need that, and also, do you have a comment, Mike?
So to the point of the 55,000 that's estimated in here, that's just the vehicle alone.
Right, it doesn't,
I got a quote from Osby Mountain Electronics just last week to buy the entire guts inside, and we're right around the $37,000 range off of that. That doesn't include, so, that includes buying everything new. So hopefully, if we're planning to stay on 3 cruisers, which we're planning to, we'll be able to save probably 5,000 for the radio and just small stuff like that, transfer it from the old to the new. But right off the bat, you're looking actually more towards that $90,000 range for a new cruiser. The second cruiser that we have, which is estimated out at 2028,
yeah,
that was bought in 2022 with ARPA money. So thankfully, we were able to save money then, but it's gonna put us back to back, pushed up against each other come that timeframe. I know the assessment company that we use, Julie, for the, they estimate cruisers only lasting like 2 to 4 years or something like that. We're planning to get 6 out of them at an average of 20,000 miles per year. Put us at 120. If we can stretch them, that, especially that 22, if I can stretch it out further, I will. But this, the 2021 is gonna be needed.
and the part that scares me the most on that is that we don't have an option. If something breaks down on the cruisers, we have 3. If you're down to 2, you're really in a crunch, so.
When 2 of us are working at the same time, and that doesn't include somebody else being in a meeting or a training.
So, any thoughts on that line item?
No, I
Yeah,
think
that said, I'd propose we reduce that to $10,250.
Can I ask a question?
Yes,
So when we got done with an old cruiser and we auctioned it off, is there any mechanism to use that money towards a new cruiser? Because we took that asset, we sold it, well, I mean, the collective we.
right.
And recouped $11,500. But how do we get that money flowing back into that capital reserve, if possible, I don't know.
Well, I think that would come to the select board and at the time.
Yeah, it can't
Discussion,
go
but
right
it
to
can't-
that. We've
No,
had that
it goes
conversation.
back into the general fund unless, I think we can.
And we can be
cover-
mindful.
We can cover
But
it,
I-
but it has to be at a town meeting.
Agreed, but I think having that discussion when you sell it, saying, you know, when we talk about this, we have to explain the, kind of the
That
flow
warrant
of the
article
funds.
time.
During town meeting.
Yeah.
Correct,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I
You
mean,
can't just do it up,
When-
you can't do it in the middle of the year.
When you draft the warrant article to buy a new cruiser, you could enter the language that
Yes.
per sales.
We don't buy them by warrant article, we buy them through the capital reserve.
right.
Mm.
But I think
that
you
may
have the
change.
you have the conversation in the minutes at a select board meeting that the previous cruiser was sold and we netted $11,000 for it.
Yeah.
And that's a note in the comments, so, you know, when we go over our, what did we spend this year? We garnished $11,000 through, you know, additional revenue, so netting it out. But yeah, you're still spending the same amount from capital reserve or,
Right, it would just be nice to, on the balance sheet, be able to show that we took that asset, converted it to cash, and that cash went to offset the cost. Otherwise, you're raising and appropriating all the money, as like Mike said, the internals of a cruiser are all getting close to the cost of a cruiser. But then we offset it by 11, which, you know, is a, you know, it's a pretty good return on a, you know, that thing was almost 10 years old.
that's an interesting question though. Probably becomes a footnote type of thing versus an actual cash transaction, but good question to find out from
Yeah, but
like the
but
audit.
in the face of actual cuts.
Yeah.
It'd be like, okay, well, if we're 10 shy, let's say, you know, the cut to the warrant article occurs and you're 10 shy on your schedule. But you anticipate, but we could sell that asset for 11, 12,
Yeah.
whatever.
Cover.
There's no way to flow it back, and if you can't flow it back, you can't buy things with footnotes. So that's my only point, is like, we do generate I'm not gonna say a revenue, we recoup some cost.
Right.
But if that cost can't flow back into the purchase, then it's a sunk cost.
Yeah, no, I totally understand
Yeah.
what you're saying. I don't know if there's a,
You have to encumber the funds in a warrant article.
yeah.
At town meeting, so when you're going to, when you know you're gonna sell that, are you selling the cruiser in 2026 or 2027?
2027. Yeah.
So in the 2027 warrant, there'll be a warrant article that says that you're going to,
Encumber any proceeds from the
Yeah.
sale of a cruiser.
Gotcha. So the warrant article would be to encumber the funds, not the warrant article to purchase the
Right.
cruiser. Gotcha.
I just
Right.
want to say that, just one thing, I'm sorry, I'm going along, but
Okay.
Lieutenant Moser, you've been doing a great job, the way you've caught up to everything, and I do hope that you're our chief. Just want to say that. Okay.
All right, police cruiser, Bob, you wanted to bring it down to 10,250.
Yeah.
Which would give us $42,000 basically in the police cruiser fund, but we know it's gonna cost us somewhere around $70,000 when we're done in 2027. So basically, we'd be paying a little bit of catch-up in 2027, possibly.
We're putting it off the purchase. One of the two. Funding it,
Yeah,
financing part of it a different way.
okay.
So to that thought, Frank, with the financing, some of the other towns have gone to a lease-to-own program, basically. The problem with that is with this rotation of every other year, they're putting away, Effingham just did it at $19,000 a year for that lease. And so now all of a sudden you have $19,000 for the first cruiser, 2 years you buy a second cruiser, now it's $38,000 that you're putting away. 2 years after that, you're buying a third cruiser, now it's $57,000 on top of that every year as opposed to only 20. So I have considered that idea as well, just because other towns are, it's just the compounding cost
Yeah.
is, but like you said, if it is only a portion of the cruiser that we're financing,
Right,
that could be different.
right.
I'm not, yeah, big fan of leases. Okay. Reevaluation of town property, capital reserve
I
fund,
think we can take that out.
the 3,000?
Yeah, because it's 22,000 for the reval, and we're not doing another one for 5 years.
Right, okay.
And can you share your thoughts, Julie, on the solar energy
Yeah.
capital reserve fund?
That is the buyout amount, so, if we're going to buy out which was
That was the
which
plan.
was voted on
Yeah.
Yeah,
in, I don't even know what year, 2018?
yeah.
19?
And that ends us contributing to that capital
Mhm.
reserve
Correct,
fund.
yeah, correct, but there will be a yearly maintenance fee.
Mhm.
Right.
It's about $1,900, but that will just go into, like the
Operating
town's
expenses.
building expense and town
Yeah.
maintenance, yeah. Yep. So that's the amount for that buyout program.
So then I would propose that we eliminate the $3,000 contribution for the revaluation of town property also.
Correct. And we're leaving the solar energy the way it is for the buyout.
So it's like that, yeah, that
We
makes
have no
sense.
choice.
All right, do you guys wanna keep going?
No.
What happens if we don't keep going? Well.
We start again next, the
We-
third,
We pick up on the
On the
recurring
third.
expendable trust funds on the third.
right.
That's
I think we've gotten
Fire.
a lot done tonight.
Yeah, we did. Any questions before we adjourn? It is 6:56, I will make a motion to adjourn.
Actually, we're gonna table the
Oh,
budget hearing.
Thank you, we're gonna table the budget hearing
Until
until February 3rd, when we will re-adjourn, or start the meeting up again. Thanks, everyone, for being here, can't wait to see you again.
We're good.